I remember that night vividly. It was a moonless night, and I was driving on a deserted stretch of highway. My gas gauge was dangerously low, and my heart pounded as I spotted a dimly lit gas station up ahead. Pulling into the station, an eerie chill crept down my spine. The place seemed frozen in time, with ancient gas pumps and faded signs. As I stepped out of the car, the wind whispered through the trees, making the shadows dance. I walked up to the worn-out building and the rusty bell jingled as I entered. The smell of gasoline and decay hung heavy in the air. An old man, hunched over like a gnarled tree, stood behind the counter. His eyes were pale, almost milky, and he stared at me without blinking. I cleared my throat nervously and asked for a fill-up. He nodded slowly and handed me the pump, his bony fingers cold to the touch. As I pumped the gas, a sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the faint hum of the pumps. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught glimpses of movement in the shadows. Every time I turned to look, nothing was there. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me, but the feeling of being watched persisted. Finishing up, I returned the pump to the old man. As he rang up the total, his voice croaked like a raven's caw. "You should leave, traveler. The night is not safe." Goosebumps prickled my skin, and I hastily paid, eager to escape the unsettling place. Back in my car, I sped away, my heart racing. But as I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw a figure standing in the doorway of the gas station, watching me. I blinked, and it was gone. I didn't stop until I reached a brightly lit town, the gas station nightmare fading in the distance. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that I stumbled upon something otherworldly that night, something lurking just beyond the veil of reality. I once stopped at a gas station in the middle of nowhere during a road trip. The place seemed deserted, but the lights were on and the pumps were working. I went inside to pay, and the atmosphere was eerie, like something was off. The cashier, an old man with a crooked grin, barely acknowledged me. As I left, I noticed a missing person poster with a familiar face, someone I'd seen at the gas station just moments before. I quickly paid and got back in my car, feeling a sense of dread. Just as I was about to drive away, I saw a figure in the rearview mirror, the same old man, standing by the window, staring at me with those unsettling eyes. I sped off, heart pounding, convinced I had narrowly escaped a gas station of horrors. I remember driving down a deserted highway one night, low on gas and desperate to find a station. Finally, I saw a dimly lit gas station up ahead. As I pulled in, the lights flickered ominously. The attendant had a strange, vacant look in his eyes as he filled my tank. I went inside to pay and noticed the shelves were stocked with expired snacks. When I asked the attendant about it, he just laughed unnervingly. As I left, I glanced back and saw him watching me with an unsettling grin. Just as I was about to merge back onto the highway, my car sputtered and died. I turned around and saw the gas station had vanished, leaving only darkness behind. I never found that station again, and to this day, I wonder if I stumbled upon something otherworldly that night. As a truck driver, I've seen my fair share of strange and creepy things on the road. But there's one experience that I'll never forget, a gas station horror story that still gives me chills to this day. It was a cold, foggy night when I pulled into a run-down gas station in the middle of nowhere. The fluorescent lights flickered eerily, casting long shadows that danced across the empty parking lot. I had been on the road for hours, and my gas tank was running on fumes, so I had no choice but to stop at this eerie outpost. A sense of unease settled over me as I stepped out of my truck and approached the grimy gas pump. The silence was so thick that I could practically hear it. The usual sounds of the night, like crickets chirping or even the distant hum of traffic, were strangely absent. Feeling a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, I glanced around, scanning the area for any signs of life. That's when I noticed a faint light coming from the gas station's convenience store. Far from reassuring, it merely added to the surreal atmosphere that seemed to permeate the premises. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the door and was greeted by an unsettling scene. The store was dimly lit, with shelves lined with dusty products, most past their expiration dates. A layer of grime covered everything, as if the place had been abandoned for years. But what made my blood run cold were the old-fashioned gas masks hanging behind the counter, their grotesque expressions staring back at me. As I cautiously made my way through the aisles, a faint sound broke the silence. A soft whimper echoed from the back of the store. Following the noise, I discovered a small, dirty room with a heavy metal door slightly cracked open. The whimpering grew louder. Driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, I gently pushed the door open. The room was illuminated by a dim light bulb hanging from a frayed wire. There, in the corner, curled up in a fetal position, was a young boy. His face was covered in grime, his clothes tattered and torn. Startled, I knelt down beside him and asked if he was okay. He slowly lifted his head, revealing bloodshot eyes filled with terror. He whispered, "Don't let them get you." Confusion and fear gripped me as I tried to find out who they were. Before I could gather my thoughts, the boy's eyes darted to a hidden passage beneath the floor. "Run," he managed to whisper before disappearing into the darkness. Following his urging, I fled towards the exit, my heart pounding in my chest. But as I reached the truck, I heard a thud behind me. Turning around, I caught a glimpse of a figure emerging from the gas station's entrance, a tall, faceless silhouette wearing one of those grotesque gas masks. With adrenaline surging through my veins, I raced away from that gas station, driving far into the night, trying to outrun the unimaginable horror that haunted those old, forgotten walls. To this day, I can never forget the gas station horror story that unfolded before my eyes. It serves as a constant reminder to always trust your instincts, for sometimes the scariest things lurk in the most unsuspecting places. I once found myself driving alone on a desolate highway, low on gas and miles away from the nearest town. The night was pitch black, and the only source of light was the flickering sign of a gas station up ahead. Relieved, I pulled in to refuel. As I got out of the car, an eerie chill ran down my spine. The place looked abandoned, with broken windows and a rusty, creaking sign that read, "Old Timers Gas Station." I hesitated but decided to pump gas anyway, hoping it was operational. Midway through filling my tank, I heard a soft whisper coming from behind me. My heart raced as I turned around, but no one was there. Brushing it off as my imagination, I continued pumping gas, only to hear the whisper again, closer this time. I spun around, my eyes darting around the darkness. A faint glow emanated from inside the gas station, casting long shadows on the cracked pavement. Curiosity mingled with dread as I cautiously approached the entrance. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit interior. Shelves were stocked with dusty, outdated products, and an ancient cash register sat atop the counter. A sudden movement caught my eye, a figure standing in the corner. My breath caught as I focused on the silhouette of an old man, dressed in tattered clothes and a wide-brimmed hat. His face was obscured, but I could feel his eyes on me. Frozen in fear, I managed to stammer, Is this place open?" The old man's lips curled into a crooked smile, and he nodded slowly. His voice, raspy and unsettling, said, "We're always open for travelers like you." I felt a shiver down my spine and realized there was no one else around. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but my car was still being refueled. As I waited, the old man began recounting stories of lost souls and haunted highways, his words weaving a tapestry of terror. Finally, my tank was full, and I turned to leave, my heart pounding. The old man's voice grew urgent as he warned, "Beware the road ahead. Once you leave, you're never truly free." With a nervous nod, I rushed to my car, the old man's chilling laughter echoing in my ears. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the old man still standing there. The gas station faded into the distance, but the feeling of unease lingered. And even now, whenever I pass by a lonely gas station on a dark night, I can't help but wonder about the horrors that may be lurking just beyond the glow of the pumps.